Hi there! So, we currently have a Breeding Alliance chest on in Dragon City, and so today I wanted to go through some tips for this Breeding Alliance chest, because although it may not always seem like the most interesting chest, it's free dragon orbs, so you could get a dragon that you could empower, but the thing is, if you get level 6 chest, you actually get heroic trade essence, and I think this is something that players don't really pay enough attention to, so if you get to level 6, you'll actually get some decent trade essence in the form of heroic and legendary trade essence, and these heroic trade essences can usually be a pain to get. So, I wanted to go through the best tips for things to breed for players that have both permanent speed up happy hour, which is permanent 12-hour time skips, and for those without, because it is very different for those that have it and those that don't. So you'll see that currently I'm at like just under 8,000 points. In a breeding chest, if you have permanent speed up happy hour, you can actually get an infinite amount of points. And the way that you can do this actually pretty easily, it's quite tedious, is by using a combination called Naughty and Secret Fire. So if I search up these two dragons right here, because it's put in a different combination from yesterday. We have Naughty on the left and we have Secret Fire on the right. Now these are ancient world breeding dragons, which does mean that you will have to either breed them out of the ancient world, or alternatively you can end up getting their orbs from various different events. But just in case you wanted to know how to actually breed these dragons, we do actually have an ancient world guide actually pinned in my Discord server. I'm not sure if these are still the best, but this is the one that I would have used and I'd still use for some of these dragons. So for instance, Secret Fire is Swingen plus Piercing, and Naughty being Squidus and Skyglow, for instance. So those are those two combinations for these ancient world breeds, at least one that works. And the thing is, this combination is technically the best for breeding, or one of the best for breeding chests, because there is zero chance of you ever having to wait on a wait timer, apart from these super short breeding times for Terra and Flame Eggs. What you're actually looking for is this breeding time for Archangel, because what you'll do is you'll accidentally breed some of the commons a few times, but then when you get the Archangel egg, that's when you'll use an ad to skip that, and then you'll be able to put that egg into your hatchery. And it gives a decent amount of points per Archangel as well. And I actually did just want to crunch the numbers a bit, because I did do some calculations of this earlier. Earlier I started off at 3,202 points just from normal breeding. And then after 8 minutes, because I was recording this exactly, after 8 minutes I had 6,431 points. So that means that in 8 minutes, I got 3,229 Breeding Alliance points. So that works out to about 400 points per minute. And so 403 points times 60 minutes comes to 24,217 points per hour of doing this. So if you were to do all of this breeding with Naughty and Secret Fire, you got the same sort of ads as me, and your game didn't crash too many times, and you got a decent amount of Archangel eggs, that would give me, if it was roughly the same, in 3 hours of watching ads, it would be 72,000 points-ish. So if for 3 hours of breeding these two, you can get 72,000 points, that's of course like your bit done in the Alliance chest easily. And the thing is, you can just keep doing it constantly and constantly, so you can grind this out as much as you possibly want. But again, that only pertains to those that have permanent time skips. Of course, if you did have 2 Naughty dragons and 2 Secret Fire dragons, you could put one in here, one in the other one. But the thing is, you're going to be watching ads a lot anyway, so having 2 of them going doesn't really make too much of a difference, honestly. Now, that's for those people that have permanent speed up happy hour, so 12-hour time skips on all breeding and hatching. You'll have to watch ads to skip both the hatching portion and the breeding portion, but honestly, getting like 24,000 points per hour-ish is really not too bad. Now, if you don't have permanent speed up happy hour, then either you can get around this by doing pre-breeding, so I did mention this in the hatching chest, But basically, if you know when the Breeding Alliance chest is coming up, which you can use a site such as Ditlep for this, you can check when the Alliance chest is coming up by going to the Home tab, and then if you scroll down, you can check which Alliance chest is coming up. So for instance, we're going to have another breeding chest on the 1st of the 8th, so a couple of days before that breeding chest happens, what you can do is you can do pre-breeding and go for some legendary breeds, like maybe Cosmic Detonation, Kratus, something like that, and just go for those dragons, and then you'll have that breed ready in time for when the Alliance chest begins. So that way you do pre-breeding and you can easily get a few thousand points already just as the chest begins. Now after the chest begins, just regular breeding, if you do enough of it out of your 3 dens, should be enough to get you enough Alliance chest points to, you know, get any minimum requirements that your leaders require. However, a pretty good combination that you can actually use is going for Aztec breeding. So Aztec breeding is pretty easily done, but you would probably be best off using non-empowered dragons for this, just to avoid any unnecessary extra breedings. So if we pop in a non-empowered Flame and Terra dragon, for instance, you'll see that there are 3 results. We have Mr. Volcano, Mr. Flaming Rock, and Aztec. Flaming Rock and Volcano aren't too bad, they've got short timers anyway. But the benefit of going for Aztec is that even though you'll have to wait for the breeding time on this dragon for quite a while, he has an incredibly short hatching time. And one of the big problems when you're doing breeding for Breeding Alliance chests is how filled up your hatchery gets, because of course they've got different timers between breeding and hatching times. So if I show you the Aztec dragon's profile on Ditlep, for instance, this dragon has a 16-hour breeding time, which is quite long, and you'll be waiting quite a while for that. Because remember, the amount of points you get isn't based on rarity, it's based on the amount of time taken for the breed or hatch, depending on which Alliance chest it is. So it doesn't matter if this dragon was a common, or whether it's actually legendary, it's based on the amount of time taken. So obviously, 2-day long timers are going to give you more points than 16-hour timer. But 16-hour timers are going to give you more points than, say, 10-minute timers. But this 16-hour breeding time, you'll notice that he has a 2-minute hatching time. So this means that you could, in theory, just do tons of Aztec breeds. So then you'll be breeding Aztecs, but then when those breeds are finished in all 3 of your dens, you'll basically be able to have a free hatchery for the whole time, because they're only going to have a 2-minute hatching time. So that is a really, really good combination to use during Breeding Alliance chests. Outside of Aztec breeds specifically, I would say you are better off just going with regular breeding, but don't forget that you do have assistant towers such as Demona's Tower, which allows you to skip 6 hours on all breedings, which can be really useful, especially if you get legendary breeds in the middle. And then of course, you've also got Broodbee if you have the Broodbee Tower unlocked, which skips any of the hatching times, which if you're doing Aztec breeds, you won't need Broodbee. But if you're just doing regular old breeds, then Broodbee here is going to be your go-to. But those are some of the best combinations. Of course, in theory, if you don't have permanent speed up happy hour, you could also do the classic Terra x Terra. The only problem with doing Terra x Terra is that, as I said, because the actual points that you get is based on time taken, doing Terra x Terra breeds is not going to really help you unless you do it for, like, I'm serious, like 24 hours straight. If you don't do it for an incredibly long period of time, this will just be the biggest waste of time you've ever done. You would be better off just doing regular old breeds in your breeding dens, making sure that your breeding dens have upgrades to them so that you get reduced timers on the breed. I would highly suggest that if you have the gems available and you've done all of your other upgrades, that you do upgrade your breeding mountain and your ultra breeding tree to at least level 2, because again, you will get reduced time on these 2 breeding dens when you do that, which does mean that Sanctuary you want to avoid usually, unless you're going for a specific breed, because Sanctuary is going to have a longer breeding time because you won't have the reduced timers on it. But, you know, just keep that in mind. That's just general breeding rules. in general for Dragon City. But you know, it is a great time in theory if you want to go for it to do your, you know, regular breedings during all of this. So, you know, if you wanted to go for your Cosmic Detonations, for instance, you could do your flame breeding. You know, it's the classic where people want to do 2 birds, 1 stone with it. So you can just breed your flame dragons together, get your hands on more Cosmic Detonation duplicates, recall them, upgrade your Cosmic Detonation and use them in arenas. So it's a good time to get this sort of breeding done as well. But again, in case you get the Cosmic Detonation breeding time, it's normally better to do this just before the breeding chest is coming up, so like a day or 2 before, just so that you can ensure that you get these points before it comes up and then do more breeding afterwards. But, you know, there is a very big discrepancy between those that have permanent speed ups and those that don't. I do feel very bad for anyone that has to do this the old-fashioned way. Some players will have limited 12-hour skips, and if you have limited 12-hour skips, you can do this a couple of times. But is it really worth it if you have events on? Probably not. If you don't have other events on, then sure, you could do a couple of these, like either Archangel breeds, or if you have limited skips, you may even just want to do the good old-fashioned War X War, because although War X War is going to potentially give you Thor dragons, at the same time, at least then, if you are, say, short on time or anything like that, you're at least going to get a combination where you can skip the breeding portion of it. So this is another option if you're either short on time or you have limited time skips and you just want to get as much value as possible out of them. You can do that, but it would be more or less the same with the Archangel, but Thor is a longer breeding time, to be fair. So they also have their benefits if you have permanent speed ups. But anyway, most important thing with these breeding chests is actually being active, logging in, doing lots of breeding. And if you do have permanent speed up Happy Hour Alliance members, you know, a lot of it may fall onto them if you have some other members that, you know, maybe aren't quite as active. One thing I will say, however, is that because these players, say, have 0 points right now, the thing is, maybe they've got breeds currently ongoing. So with breeding chests, I'd only kick players from your alliance if they have 0 points with like under a day left or very, very close to the end of the event, because these players, they may have an entire set of breeding tens with dragons full, but then if you kick them when they're just about to give you tons of points, they're going to feel really miffed. So yeah, keep that in mind. But permanent speed up Happy Hour guys, you can easily carry this chest, but it's just a lot of tedious grind with the ads and hoping that your ads don't break, of course. But I do wish you the best, and I hope that you can get all of your breeding chests done from this point onwards. If you're free to play and you don't have 12-hour time skips, well, let's hope that they put you in the beta next time. If they do continue it, that is.